Hello, strong, beautiful, confident woman of God. Yes, I am talking to you. Welcome to the Purpose After Domestic Violence podcast, where getting freedom from the effects of domestic violence meets empowerment to walk in the fullness of your God-designed purpose. I am your host, Tina. I am an attorney, an author and speaker, and a Christian life purpose coach. I will be your guide here, helping you on your journey from overcoming victimhood and just simply surviving to stepping into the victorious life God has waiting just for you. As we travel this road together, Purpose After Domestic Violence is not just a podcast. It's a sacred space where the shackles of domestic violence are broken and empowerment takes root, grows, and flourishes. Here, we are not just surviving, we're thriving in the fullness of our God-designed purpose. I have personally walked the path from victimhood to victory, and I'm here to guide you through it. Picture me as your big sister, holding your hand, sharing wisdom and revelation, and helping you navigate the twists and turns of this path towards healing, freedom, and empowerment. Whether you're on the path to victory or seeking a guiding light in the storm, Purpose After Domestic Violence is here for you. Together, we'll illuminate the path forward to a life filled with purpose. Welcome, my sweet sister, to the Purpose After Domestic Violence podcast. Hello, we are back today to talk about technology abuse. Okay, so when you recognize technology abuse and identify how it has impacted your life, you can change your narrative by changing your mindset about your privacy. And I want to start by talking about, let's see, have you ever heard, and if so, what does it mean to you? What are your first thoughts that come to mind? That the devil is the king of the airwaves.
I have. I believe my mom has said that before.
Yeah. So what does that mean to you? And what kind of feelings does that bring up? Yeah, let's start there.
So, I grew up in parents being pastors of some kind always.
Right.
So for me, I think it brings up a lot in my childhood and the memory of listening to the radio because we only listened to Christian music at home. But I went to public school and had to ride the bus. And I remember coming home singing My Little Whiskey Girl one time because I heard it on the bus at like 6 years old. And I remember my mom telling me, that wasn't a good song. Definitely now I get it wasn't appropriate for a 6-year-old to be singing. And I know what it is now, but she, used to tell us how the story of how Lucifer was the angel of music and how that kind of worked in the world we live in now and in the music industry, even as a child. And kind of the same thing I remember because my dad, and it's totally where I got it from, she would get mad too growing up if he watched. My dad loves zombies. He does.
Yeah.
He's real bad about watching zombie shows and as a kid. And I remember my mom hearing her give him that speech too, which I know he was already well aware of. But the same thing, but about TV, you got to be careful what you watch. But when I hear of like technology and the devil, that's kind of what I think is those things even like stilled in my brain as a child.
Yeah.
How he gets to you through technology is through music and everything. It's right in front of our face now.
Yeah.
But I just kind of have that be careful what you see and listen to.
Yeah. And that totally is biblical. But I'm wondering, is the devil is the king of the airwaves? Where's that in the Bible? I mean, is it? Like, I'm legitimately asking because I'm not sure. I mean, we for sure have to be careful what we take in through our eyes and our ears, for sure.
We do. But now I'm going to fact check this real quick and see if that is in the Bible.
Yeah.
Let me see. Because you know what? I don't remember ever seeing and actually reading any scripture where it says that.
Right.
Which it makes sense of why they say it. But
yeah, it does. It makes sense why. Because and maybe that's just where they get it, because I know there's actually lots of scripture about, be careful what you look at and be careful what you hear and stuff. Because it's kind of like the concept of God doesn't give us more than we can handle. Like that's not biblical.
Well, I just found this.
Okay.
Satan is called the prince of the power of the air in Ephesians 2.
That's right. Okay. That's right. Okay.
It's
All
just
right.
worded a little bit differently.
Yeah. Okay. So it is absolutely categorically a biblical concept. Okay. He is
I'm
called
glad it looked.
the king. Okay. Perfect. So good. We know that now. All right. For sure. So, and we think about privacy and like you had just brought up, it was music on the radio as kids, right?
Yeah.
And then also TV. But now, I mean, we have social media and we have the internet and that's all
In our
airwaves.
face. Yeah.
And I mean, we can't get away from it. I mean, it's right here next to me. And how many of us hold this in our hands almost all day long, right? And are on it all day long. So it's so much more prevalent than when we were kids.
Yeah. Well, and even, me being a young mom of young children in this day and age, that's like my son, he loves watching these little videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
And we do those and you have to be careful even because I'm bad about not putting it on kids YouTube if I'm right there.
Yeah.
We listen to a lot of like Pete the cat story time and stuff and Miss Honey. And if I don't do that, you wouldn't think some of these commercials that come through on child's channel would be there, but they are, and it's hard to catch. So like even for like my small children, and I have no control over that.
Right, right.
But that's just a great example of instilling. The other day I had to turn it off, me and Cody did, because there was, I don't know what the name of it was, but some kind of scary movie.
Yeah.
Popped up in the middle of a Miss Honey story.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, oh my goodness, like just turn it completely off. We couldn't get it to control it to turn on fast enough. And little kids don't need to be seeing an exorcist happening on TV.
Right.
And it has no business being on a kid's channel.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. And it's interesting because you did grow up in a household where that was being strictly monitored, right?
Yeah.
And my Uncle John, he raised his kids the same way. So I have a cousin on both ends of me. One's a year younger than me and the other one's a year older. They were sisters. So, and I was raised a total heathen, right?
So there
was no monitoring in my household, So I always thought it weird, when my cousins would tell me something of how things work at their house. I didn't understand it. But looking back, whether they agree with that or not, I see the value now, and I wasn't saved when my kids were little either. So they didn't really have any of that monitoring either. But I can totally see the value in it. But the point is, it is so prevalent, and we do know now that it is biblical. He really is the king of the air, the airwaves, and that's technology, because that all happens through the airwaves. So when we talk about technology abuse, I feel like a common sense theory would be this might very well be the devil's favorite.
And that would make a lot of sense.
And when we are being technologically abused, I feel like that fear is even more prevalent than even with like physical abuse. I feel like the fear is really the thing. And that's why I did the 2 Timothy 1:7 verse in this chapter. For God has not given us the spirit of fear and timidity, but of power, love, and self-discipline, or a sound mind, right? And I love my quote in this because it's like we can find comfort in knowing that his protection, meaning God's, extends even into cyberspace.
It's good. It's
You know,
true.
because the devil might be the king of the airways, but guess what? We also can be putting things on social media that are positive. We should never be putting negative things on social media. Never, never, never. Never get into an argument with anybody on social media. Never, never, never. And not to delve into the abortion issue, but I just want to say putting posts on there with aborted babies and all that stuff, because I see Christians doing that, and it's like, yes, that's true. And yes, it's an important issue, but that's not witnessing to anybody,
That's
you know,
true.
that
And
is
I've been
not,
guilty of that.
that's not witnessing to anybody. That's not changing anybody's mind for Christ, you know?
It's true.
So anywho, um, it is definitely an important topic, and my old pastor's wife used to do that all the time. I mean, like she'd have a dozen posts a day. And it's like, it turned me off as a Christian. You know, I can only imagine what it does to somebody who doesn't know the Lord, you know?
Yeah.
So, okay. So the devil is the king of the airwaves, but God is still the king of everything, including over Satan. So it's not something we have to be fearful of. It's something we need to be aware of.
Yes.
It's something we need to be aware of, and it's something that we need to not engage in all the negativity.
Yes. Well, and I think that's where some people get lost with technology and with so many other things in life. And it's Christians, not
Yeah.
all, but some is they think everything, they fear the devil
Yeah.
than anything.
Right.
They give him that power rather than remembering we serve the one true God and the one true King
That's
who
right.
reigns above all.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah,
Yeah.
some people I feel like are that even with technology, I've met some people they think it's just absolutely pure evil
Mm-hmm.
and beyond technology, but
Yeah.
that's the key, is what you just said.
Yeah.
Jesus is king over the devil.
Yes.
The devil has to bend the knee.
Yes. 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 And I love, there's a lot of good Christian stuff out there, and I think, there's great Christian movie companies, right? And
Yeah.
I know I heard one of them say, this is an area where we need to take authority,
Yeah.
you
And
know,
we can.
and we can.
That's what people forget.
Yeah, we absolutely can.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we have to be aware though, like you said, and not to engage. And sometimes
Yeah.
that's very hard, but
Yeah.
that's why we have to be aware.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So let's talk about technology abuse. I feel like for me, I had one piece, but I'll share that in a minute. But some of my clients, and this wasn't a thing back when I got divorced, but guys are putting trackers on vehicles now. So who knows? They can track you through this.
Yep.
So easy. Even there's even apps out there like that Life 360. I mean, that's a good thing for like families and like if you have teenagers and you want to know where your teenagers is, but it's really also super good for abusers who want to track their victims.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but there's also little tracking devices they can just stick on a car.
I've had that fear before. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I had a client recently who he had done that because she was actually at shelter and he had to give her something and he's like, I'm outside your door at the shelter because he was able to track her vehicle. That is scary. But, if you do fear for something like that, I do believe the police can sweep for that kind of stuff. So that's always, something to check into. Um, were you technologically abused in your relationship, do you think?
So I wasn't allowed to have a phone
Oh,
other
see?
than a flip phone.
Okay.
And his mother actually took, which I mean, I allowed it to happen,
Well, we do.
but his mother actually took my phone and locked it in a safe box in her home.
Oh.
And I could not have it other than a flip phone. Um, and then we had a landline too, but that's all. My whole pregnancy, I was excluded from the world.
Wow. So that's almost like reverse.
Yeah, and I only got that back the day I had my baby. So for the excuse so I could take pictures of my newborn child.
Yeah.
And the whole time I was actually in labor, he had that phone and was going through it and was getting on his social medias and actually yelling and cussing at me and almost got kicked out of the room.
Oh my gosh.
So, I mean, I wasn't really able to have any technology
Right. Which I think
without.
is technology abuse too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I
But the
mean,
deal was if he got a flip phone, so he couldn't get a hold when he, overdosed, he
yeah.
got a flip phone so he wouldn't be as tempted to get a hold of drug dealers. But I had to have one too because I
Yeah.
wasn't allowed to be trusted
Yeah.
with the phone, or he could get on my phone and have access. If I was asleep or something,
Uh-huh.
get a hold of his drug dealers. It was too much of a temptation. So I wasn't allowed to have a real phone.
Good grief.
Yeah.
These guys are something else.
Yeah. I didn't get another iPhone or anything until I had already been gone for probably actually about 3 months, close to.
Yeah.
Yeah. After I'd already left. And it
Yeah.
was because I was scared though to get back on social media and things because of him as well.
Right.
But yeah. But yeah,
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to have any technology.
Yeah. Yeah. There wasn't social media when I got divorced either, I don't think.
And
If there was, I wasn't on it, but
I did have an iMac computer that I did leave behind. And when I did get a new iPhone though, my things did get hacked into
oh yeah.
because I left that. I left pretty much all of my things. I just went back for,
Yeah.
you know, my son's stuff. That was my main concern.
Right.
So he
Right.
was able to have access, which I thought I'd change that, but I guess, you're not physically there to change the computer.
Yeah.
But even after there was some things on the iPhone that were getting into once I did have an iPhone again, just
Yeah.
I left a computer behind.
Yeah. And you just recently had to get an Android
Yeah.
because he was still hacking into your stuff.
Yeah. Which I don't even know. I'm not very tech savvy. I'm sure you
Yeah.
figured that out.
Yeah, I'm not even.
But I didn't even know how to access my own iCloud.
Yeah.
So once I realized it was my TikTok that got hacked, that's the only thing I have that's not connected to my phone number. It's connected to my old email, which
Gotcha.
was connected to the iCloud.
Right.
So when I realized I got hacked, I was like, what in the world? And it actually made it where it did not recognize my iPhone anymore.
Okay.
How I was able to, I figured out how to get into the iCloud and it showed me there was another device open and it actually showed his name because he had opened a Snapchat and all these other things on my old computer using
Um,
my iCloud.
uh,
Yeah. Silly
uh,
enough to use his name for it.
right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And downloaded a some kind of photo collage too with it. Like I had everything. Yeah.
Uh,
So now I don't have an iPhone anymore, but I
right.
have peace of mind now. So
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've always been an Android girl anyway, so welcome to the family.
sound like Cody.
Yeah. So I think the big thing when I think back again, 23 years ago now, 23 and a half now, there wasn't, technology wasn't what it is now, so we didn't have social media. We barely had the internet. but but
Emailing was big, wasn't it?
yeah, emailing was the social media of the day.
Yeah.
But I feel like technology abuse and financial abuse really intersect a lot. So when I think back to technology abuse in my relationship, it was controlling the money. And I can see, and then, so the day I left, so I left at night because we had a police incident. I had to call the police. But I ended up leaving that night. So first thing the next morning, he was at the bank and he froze all our accounts. So I had no access to money at all. So, and, I couldn't go to the ATM. I couldn't go to the bank. So I feel like that, and these days that's totally easy to do online.
Yeah.
With online banking. We didn't have online banking. Hey, I had to actually go to the bank to do that, but
things were a little bit more complicated.
Yeah, an extra step or two. But now, I mean, financial abuse and technology is, can really cause some trouble. So, all right. So I like the verse, Psalm 139, where David, the psalmist, reminds us of God's omniscience and omnipresence. It says, "Oh Lord, you have examined my heart and know everything about me. You know when I sit or stand. When far away, you know my every thought. You chart the path ahead of me and tell me where to stop and rest. Every moment you know where I am. You know what I am going to say before I even say it." And I just love that because, that's what the enemy and wants to do through our abuser, make us think that they see us no matter where we're at, right?
Yep.
And if they have the surveillance equipment, yeah, they can. But as long as we are aware, that these things can be happening, we can be looking for them and seeing and shutting some of those things down. But, God even knows our every thought. And the devil doesn't know that.
It's true.
Mm-hmm. So that, again, not only is he King of Kings and king over the devil, but he even knows our thoughts, where the devil can't do that. The devil can latch on to something that comes out of our mouth.
But that's it.
And we can find comfort knowing that his protection extends even into cyberspace. Love that. Love it, love it, love it. And when we do get fearful, because that stuff makes us fearful.
Yeah, it really does.
It really does. But we can also remember that God did not give us a spirit of fear. So if we are feeling fear, and that's not, I mean, some things God makes us fearful of to protect us in the instinct thing, but that's not what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
So, God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and self-discipline. And also, actually, I think that's in the next one. There is no fear in love, right? So we actually cover that in the spiritual abuse. But, if you're fearful in a relationship, it's not love, So we'll talk more about that next week. Anything else you want to say on technology abuse before we close out?
Not really, other than at the end, you're talking about the spirit of fear. And you said that sometimes God gives you things and it's not fear. And I think that's just to anyone out there that is fearful of this. Yeah. Or I remember being afraid, like once I first got a phone and had social media, posting where I am or what I'm doing and
Yeah.
things. You have the fear of flying monkeys.
Right. Right.
Instead, don't have fear, but ask God to give you wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you don't have to have that
Right.
fear. You make your
Or
stuff private and
right.
just don't be sharing stuff you shouldn't be sharing.
Right.
He
Right.
said, don't put
Yeah.
your laundry on there
Yeah.
and just live your life, but you don't have to make it public for everyone to see.
Right.
Use wisdom if you're dealing with crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you don't, if you're using wisdom, that cancels out the fear. You have nothing to fear if you're being
Right.
wise.
Right. Yeah. And I know, that's why it's so important to have a close relationship with the Lord and know that you hear from him and how to distinguish his voice because, he can reveal things to us.
Yeah.
Like if something isn't right or we do have a tracking device on our car or something, if we have that close relationship with the Lord, he could tell us that
Yeah.
because he knows.
Yeah.
He knows. Just like he knows our thoughts and what we're up to, he knows our abuser's thoughts and what he's up to
Yeah.
also.
Well, and I think that's the thing where you change your focus.
Yeah.
Because if all you're doing is living in fear, you're not going to hear clearly.
Right. Right.
You're going to be too anxious to focus on the Lord.
That's right.
So you have to, instead of just focusing on fear, go to God, have that conversation and keep that
Yes.
conversation and your eyes on him and focus
Yes.
on hearing him so you can have that wisdom instead of the fear. Because sometimes we get so busy that we aren't focusing on God. We can't hear his voice.
Right. Right.
And if you're too focused on your abuser, what he's doing or what you think he might be doing,
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to hear him.
Right.
It's going to be muffled.
That's good. That's so good. Yeah.
Because in the beginning, I was
Yeah.
focused on fear.
Yeah.
And a lot of us are with stuff like that.
Yeah.
But if you can redirect yourself and just really give it to God, because that's what we're supposed to do,
Yeah.
cast all of our cares, everything onto him,
Yes.
and you focus on him instead of that fear, you're going to hear him. You're going to get guidance and know what you need to do to keep yourself safe
Yeah.
so you don't have to fear.
Yeah.
And sometimes he moves through other people. Maybe you're working with Safe Passages or an attorney. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You'll hear something through them. God works in all
Right.
sorts of ways. But focus and give that to him and focus on him and not in fear so you can hear him clearly.
That's so good. That is so good. I love that. All right. Good. Good stuff. All right. Well, next week we are going to be talking about spiritual abuse. And this will be interesting because I feel like this is one that both of us have been looking forward to diving deep into. Yeah.
It'll be good.
Yeah. Yeah. So we will see you next week. Thank you so much for joining me on my Purpose After Domestic Violence podcast. I hope today's conversation resonated with you. And if you think it could encourage someone you know, please share it. Together we can spread the light of healing and purpose. I would so appreciate it if you would like, subscribe, and leave me a review. These small actions would bless me indeed and help other women find this podcast and be encouraged too. Remember, you are not alone. Your strength is undeniable, and your journey is worth celebrating. If you have questions, thoughts, or topics you'd like me to explore in the future, please reach out on social media, or you can visit my website at purposeafterdv.com. Before we part ways, always remember, you are a strong, beautiful, confident woman of God, and your purpose is shining brightly within you. Until next time, stay strong, stay inspired, and keep moving forward on your journey to a life filled with purpose.